The next talk I'm really looking forward to, I don't know if anyone's can recognise Josh, or Wizzy as he likes to be called. He's been on the Rego desk all morning. He's also probably answered about 1,000 emails for BSides Canberra. So not only is he presenting this year, but he's been a long-term volunteer. So thanks Josh. Round of applause for Josh. But at the moment, he's here as a presenter and he has an amazing talk. Where did I put my keys? Preventing data leaks at scale with automation. So another big round of applause for Josh, the presenter.
Excellent. Cool. All right, so Carly's done a bit of an introduction. This is me, long-term BSides Canberra attendee and volunteer. You might remember me from roles such as Rego check-in or awkward MC. If not, come check me out in the off-track a bit later, but wait until the end of this talk. I've worked at Red Hat for the last 8 years, the first 5 of which I spent in product security, and now I'm in the information security team. It's been a pretty awesome experience to work for one of the largest open source companies in the world, and straddling the necessities of security with the open nature of how we work and the company's fairly unique culture. My most recent role has me focused on incident response, and alongside that a lot of automation work. And one of the projects that I work on is a topic of discussion today. Anyway, enough about me and let's get on to it. So what's a presentation without an agenda? No point beating around the bush here. My goal is to get you interested and involved in an open source project and a group that I'm part of. To do so, we'll look quickly at what a secret is, why you should care. We'll also look at different things that different companies are doing, including mine, and also looking at why this simply isn't enough. Then we'll look at some future improvements that we can make in the industry and ways that you might potentially want to get involved. Let's strap in and get going. Fair warning though, a lot of the images are AI generated. I am not a prompt engineer and not really an AI person, but these are the least ridiculous options that I came up with. So what is a secret? How we define a secret is pretty simple. Any piece of sensitive information that, if exposed, could pose a risk to an individual or organisation. The sensitivity of a secret is highly contextual. That's pretty simple, right? That last part there is really important. The context of a secret can change the situation entirely. The simplest example that I commonly use is when you look at test data. Often this data contains a lot of secrets, but it should hopefully be fake data. If the contents of the same production system were to be leaked, there's a high chance that it would actually be sensitive. Today, we're mostly going to be focusing on secrets that you would commonly see during development and deployment. Secrets like API keys, certificates, credentials, session tokens, and more system-style secrets. A lot of the time, these are things that you see in configuration files, environment files, hard-coded or even in logs. That's not to say that other types of information aren't important, PII, medical data, all of that. However, in our experience where I work, these sorts of leaks, thankfully, don't really happen. So where are we finding these secrets? Many organisations have a large number of disparate systems that are used by various teams. In some organisations, there are hard and strict rules. Others have a lot more freedom. Here are some of the systems that Red Hat use for various purposes. We have source code management, both internal and external, GitHub, GitLab. We have people that are using personal accounts. GitHub has a one account policy, which is pretty easy to get past, but yeah. We have code flying everywhere. We have forks of forks of forks. We have bug tracking systems, customer support systems, internal systems, help desk. We have our CI/CD systems, both upstream and downstream. We have all of their logs and all the artifacts that they create. We have logs in general. We have container registries, paste bins, chat platforms, both those that are blessed and those that aren't. And now we have AI. And then we also have all of these again from all of the vendors and third parties that we rely on. So every company has these to varying degrees. At Red Hat, the majority of these are also public and open. We work on OpenShift, Kubernetes bugs openly, Linux issues, kernel issues, all sorts. And then we also have customers, and a lot of those customers will upload, they have a bug, they'll upload a log file or some information about that bug to one of our bug tracking systems because they feel like going that way rather than through the customer system. And a lot of those are open by default. A lot of logs are normally pretty clean, but sometimes debug logs or there's a failure and there's sensitive credentials in there. All of these platforms are posing their own sort of risk for leaked secrets and data. And for those working on open source, the risk is even higher, with many defaulting to open. Cool. So why care? I've been thinking about how a breach could be a little bit like a game of snakes and ladders. As the attacker is trying to move across the board, they want to avoid any snakes. They want to avoid detections and incident response. Just as much, they want to find the breadcrumbs, the secrets scattered throughout the organisation that give them the step up, moving them closer to their targets. Every secret your organisation detects first and remediates is removing a potential ladder for the attacker, making their life harder. The snakes are your other detections and responses, pulling back the attacker as they try to move forward. Maybe this is a bit of a stretch, but if you leave your secrets laying around the place, you are making life easier for attackers. Maybe you get lucky, and that AWS access key you accidentally published publicly, they only end up deploying, 50 high-performance instances and start mining crypto. It's probably better than breaching a production system and data, but it's still going to cost you a lot of money, especially if you don't realise for a few days. So let's look at some of the research that's been done in the industry. A Git Guardian post shows that there's a 25% increase in hard-coded credentials from 2023 to 2024. That's huge. That's a huge number of leaks, representing about 23.8 million new leaks detected by Git Guardian in 2024. This is up from 19.1 million in 2023. And further, they suggest that 15% of all commit authors have committed a secret. So that's 23 million secrets leaked and 15% of all commit authors leaking secrets. That's just crazy numbers. There's also a Reversing Labs article, and they quote Thomas Segura from Git Guardian as well, that easily identifiable secrets published to GitHub can be compromised in a matter of seconds, with attackers constantly monitoring GitHub for new pushes. So consider that. Gone in 60 seconds for the sake of a pun. But we see that remediation is slow, with many secrets still active after 5 days, and an average remediation time of 94 days. This is absolutely crazy numbers. They find a secret within seconds and often have a minimum of 5 days to use it. Now, if they haven't just used the secrets for short-term gain, let's consider that they might have used the credentials to breach the production system or gotten a foothold into your organisation. The average cost of a breach in 2024 was $4.8 million US. IBM's research has further shown that security skill shortages correspond to an average increase in the cost of a breach by $1.78 million US. Red Hat is completely owned by IBM, but no one in my team or myself has been involved in any of that research. This paints a pretty dim picture for organisations. Secrets are being leaked more than ever, they are being found quicker than ever, and remediation still remains too slow. Organisations are losing significant money through simple oversight and mistakes. So why does this matter to Red Hat specifically? I've touched on it a little bit already, but we're very heavily focused on open source software, and we have an upstream first mentality. My employment contract actually legally protects my interest in upstream projects. Our engineers are working publicly using shared systems to fix, improve, update software that is underlying a lot of our product offerings. This team is then further working across the globe in different time zones, sometimes different working days, very much like they do in upstream community. And they do this by using systems to work asynchronously. We also consume a lot of upstream code into our downstream. We even host a lot of the upstream CI/CD infrastructure and testing infrastructure for both upstream and downstream. though we do keep them separate for obvious reasons. Our engineers also have a lot of freedom. Freedom in the technologies and solutions that they choose to use, as this helps empower them to really solve problems efficiently. Though we do have strong standards and baselines internally as we start to productize our projects. And finally, we're a very customer-focused company. Obviously, when you're selling open source software, you're selling support. So our customers really do expect us to care about their security and about their secrets and their data. So what are we doing? For quite a few years, we've had an internal system that we refer to as Pwned Alert. It's a combination of software that we've built to detect leaked secrets and inform both my team and any relevant associates. It's got a few main components to it. It's got a monitor, pattern server, scanner, analyst, and a forwarder. The monitor does just as it suggests. It monitors different services for updates, new pushes of code. This includes things like GitHub's event stream, Jira, internal LDAP, GitLab, and a few other places. It then creates scan requests that it passes on to the scanner. The scanner is a real workhorse. It takes a Git repository, container image, JSON, URL, and it scans it using our custom rule sets and patterns. The core engine here for the actual scanning is Git leaks. We have LeakTK scanner, which is part of Pwned Alert, and it's more of a convenience wrapper built around Git leaks that prepares all of the images and everything else for scanning. We do contribute upstream to Git leaks and other projects where we can, and the rules we use, we also share those. The rules we use come from the pattern server, and the pattern server, it basically takes authentication and it dishes out rules depending on what people want to use it for. For Pwned Alert, we have a very broad set of rules so that we can catch as much as we, everything. Whereas if an associate is pulling down the rules for use with Git hooks and pre-commit scans, or if they want it on their CI/CD system, we can actually build custom rule sets so that they have a smaller number of rules they need to scan each file with. Once the scan is done, it passes it off to the analyst. And this does a review of the results, and it works out who should be notified. At this stage as well, for some systems, we have the ability to immediately mitigate and disable or quarantine certain credentials. But often it passes on the information to the associate and to the information security team. And that's all done by the forwarder, which is the last step. It sends out emails, Splunk events, it calls webhooks to trigger off other automation. And it can be fairly easily expanded. As part of our rule set, we actually have some tags that enable us to manage, so like an AWS access key and secret key, we might actually want to notify the InfoSec team, not just the associate and things like that. So we've tried to keep each of these components simple. So all of the components use standard I/O and JSON just to make it as simple as possible. We have actually run this in a fairly, scaled out horizontally using NATS.io as a message bus. And to do that, we actually upstreamed some changes to the NATS CLI to allow us to pipe from our tools into NATS CLI onto the message bus and then the other way as well. We also have a few extra bits and pieces that aren't Pwned Alert but are separate, things like the pre-commit hooks, software for streamlining the installation of these pre-commit hooks for the associates. We have GCS filters. It's basically running as a function as a service, and it scans all new files going into Google Cloud Storage for secrets, and it quarantines any that it needs to. We have the similar things on Jenkins and GitLab. My favourite part of Pwned Alert is looking a little bit more at the technical side of things. So it started as a Python project slightly before I started. It has the emitters that continually monitor the supported platforms and send off to the scans. We also, with that notification part, we have another system that pesters people. So if there are credentials or secrets that aren't particularly serious and don't need immediate follow-up, it will escalate with their managers, with them, and continually remind them to do something about it. We do have some memory issues at the moment with the Python project itself. When it started small, what we used to do was just hold everything in this little custom message bus within the application. And those requests used to be small because it used to just be a bit of information about the depth of each Git repo that you wanted to scan. But as we started to expand out to scanning JSON in particular, and as we can now do that in line without having to expand it onto the file system, those JSON blobs that we are scanning end up sitting in the queue. But it's not significant. It's using, like 6 gig of RAM after a week. The LeakTK scanner itself actually uses very minimal amount. We host this on OpenShift because Red Hat, and we also use a memory disk, or a RAM disk, or whatever you want to call it, for all the temporary files, for all the Git clones, everything that needs to hit a file system, just so that we don't have the bottleneck of an actual hard disk. LeakTK scanner is a newer part. We used to just branch out to Git leak straight off, but as we wrote LeakTK scanner, which we wrote in Go, we now have basically encapsulated Git leaks with inside it, and this saves us a lot of time in calling the executable over and over again. Instead, we sit it there in a listen mode. We have also worked with the Git leaks quite a bit to upstream a lot of the improvements so that they go into Git leaks rather than being in LeakTK scanner. We have 8 CPUs assigned, and even though we're scanning 350,000 repos or more a week, scanning hundreds of gigabytes of JSON and not JSON, sorry, of Jira and all other sort of systems, we find that the CPUs are there for burst traffic and to continually monitor, but when we move from Git Leak 7, as well as a few other things, we actually managed to double the amount that we scanned, or half the amount of time it took to scan the same amount. We have also 11,000 Git accounts that we monitor across the organisation, and I'll speak a little bit more about the challenges in getting those as we go on. I'd mentioned some rules before, so yeah, the rules or the patterns are at the core of our scanner. They're at the core of Git leaks. And this is a very simple example. It's a Google Cloud Platform API key. regex is the core of each of these rules. So you can see things there like the ID in the description, fairly self-explanatory. You've got the regex, followed by a secret group, which is the secret group pulled out of the regex. And then we have those tags there, which are what I mentioned earlier. So this is a type secret. There are other types like phone numbers and things like that. And then we have alert. So we have alert repo owner, and there can be alerts for infotech and other ones there. You also then have the keywords. Keywords are kind of like a short circuit. So if the part that you're scanning doesn't have the keyword in there, then it won't even try and run the regex. And then we have stop words, which are kind of like a shortcut after. So after the regex is run, if in the secret any of these stop words are there, then it just continues on. It skips that and it's not considered a finding. Challenges. We've faced many challenges over the years building the system and getting it to the coverage levels that we're comfortable with. The culture within Red Hat allows a lot of freedom. It's one of the company's core values. And many associates have been contributing to open source software and upstream prior to coming to Red Hat. They have their own accounts on various systems and upstream platforms. This culture allows them to really innovate, work quickly, and be part of those upstream communities. But it also means we don't necessarily have simple ways of tying their Red Hat accounts to their personal accounts. So in order to really respond quickly, we needed to put systems in place to link all of these accounts together. Through many years of campaigning, we've got really good coverage with 11,000 with the Git with 11,000 accounts. That's just massive. This was achieved mostly through associates self-reporting their accounts, and they do this by adding it to the internal directory. But this was built on the back of an information security team that has spent many years working with engineers and within people within the organisation to work with them rather than kind of just demand things. So we've really built up a good rapport, and the engineers are generally quite happy to come along without much pushback. I know of some other organisations that are a lot more strict, and they have the ability to really demand this sort of information. And there's some that are actually, they forbid anyone from using their company emails or their company accounts or anything like that with these upstream repositories without explicit permission, going as far as continually scanning all of these platforms for their associates. However, obviously Red Hat operates very differently. I also mentioned earlier pre-commit hooks, GitLab CI scanning, Jenkins, and cloud storage scanning. These solutions were created as part of responses to incidents. And we find that a lot of times our focus is kind of directed by where these incidents are happening. And it also helps the teams are a lot more willing, and their managers are a lot more willing to put these sort of systems in place after things happen, which is a bit sucky, but you know, we've had some good wins that have come about from incidents that probably shouldn't have happened in the first place. We do find that occasionally we get some pushback against scanning, as it's really seen to sort of impact performance and slow down processes. But here we've really just had to work with the engineers to try and make sure that, you know, we cut down the rules that are specific to where they're working, and we work with them to try and remove all these roadblocks and work with the leadership across the company to have more of a natural sort of implementation rather than demanding it. So yeah, I've spoken about a few of these systems. Here it's broken down into 4 key areas. So we've got detect, obviously that one's pretty obvious, and that's where a lot of our effort has been so far. Our scanner and our patterns are open source. The pattern server and GitLab CI, those aren't, they're on their way there. We then have mitigate, so these are the ones that help us to actually solve or resolve the risk. Things like automated secret revocation, documentation, and the forwarder. We do have a bunch of hack scripts to help validate credentials in the GitHub, but we're still working towards the open sourcing a lot of that automation. Then we have the prevention, which are tools designed to really stop them before they get there. So things like the GCS filter stops files from making it into the cloud storage. The pre-commit hooks stop people from actually committing. And then we have the improve. And this is where we bundle in all of our upstream contributions, like with Nats.io and Git leaks. And there's been quite a few like in-place decompression libraries and things like that that we've worked with them to improve the libraries, and yeah, then we use them. If you want to talk any more about any of this stuff, feel free to come up to me later. So what have we learned at Red Hat? Most of what we've learned through this project isn't technical. When leaks happen, it's normally an accident, and we need to make sure that we have respect and empathy when dealing with leaks. The associate has probably just made a massive mistake that's going to be expensive and have lasting impacts for themselves and potentially their career, but hopefully not. Yeah, we really need to partner with them to help them solve the problem, not to just broadcast the blame. Ultimately, we're here to protect the company, and as associates are often using personal accounts, we want to make sure we don't overstep. We don't want to collect too much information, only that necessary to protect the company. And we really need to engage with the associates as people, and often people under stress, and that can sometimes cause defensiveness. We also need to know the why things are being leaked. This really helps us to prioritise what's important. Yeah, and then when communicating, we need to ensure we give actionable information so that when they receive the notification, they realise something's happened. We really need to give them a good call to action, spelling out exactly what they need to do and keeping it as simple as possible. And then, as with all projects in the organisation, we need to understand the value, and we need to, share this with management and the engineers and everyone. But here we can really leverage the data. Thankfully we're working with data that's relatively quantifiable, and we can use this to our advantage to really track the trends in the coverage. We also need to know that collect enough information to make sure that we can attribute actions. We know the who, what, where and when. We'll probably never know the why, but then we also need to balance it with the employee's privacy. The impact of Red Hat's been fairly significant. Over the years we've seen a lot of improvements. We have much better visibility and understanding of where the secrets end up and why they end up there. And this allows us to help direct our future improvements. As mentioned before, some of our sub-projects have been born of incidents. We've seen significant gains in our response rate. Our time to mitigation has dropped from days to hours or less, and a lot of that has come about from the time spent refining our process for choosing the right person to contact. We're also seeing alerts being sent very quickly. Some systems within a minute and others within minutes. Like if you upload a secret to our Jira instance, you'll get an email within 30 seconds. And we have an increased security awareness as well. Nothing rings home quite like receiving an actionable alert for something that you've done. If you think back to the Git Guardian report, 15% of committers have committed a secret. Chances are you or one of your team members has done it and learned the hard way. By working with associates in an empathetic way and not broadcasting blame, the incident ends up being a lot more pleasant for everyone and a broader learning experience for them and their team. And we've found that a lot of people that have caused incidents end up becoming advocates for information security. We've also, we have seen cost savings, obviously. So we use AWS a lot, and AWS do scan, but we still get some things that go through. And you can never know how much money you save from a quick response, but you can infer it from past incidents, and we have seen significant cost savings across the organisation. So what are some of the other companies doing? I've mentioned the differences between Red Hat and some other unnamed companies a few times, and now we're going to be looking at some of the vendors and open source projects. AWS constantly scanning for secrets relevant to their platform, quarantining them, notifying the owner. They also actively monitor for misuse of keys and services on their platform. The other cloud platforms do it, but in my experience, AWS is the best at this one. GitHub have their secret detections as part of advanced security, blocking potential secrets before they really properly get committed. GitLab have the same. Both these platforms offer parts of these services for free for public repositories. You've got Trufflehog and Git Guardian. They're two big scanning vendors. They provide platforms for scanning, notifications, mitigation and reporting of leaks. It's pretty obvious it's a big issue that's not going away. And each of these companies has their strengths and weaknesses, and all of them do provide high quality solutions, especially if you don't have the people to implement a secret scanning system yourself. They're definitely worth looking at. At Red Hat, we utilise GitHub and GitLab secret scanning where we can, especially in public repositories. And we also do receive a lot of, well, not a lot of alerts, but we do receive alerts from AWS from time to time. And you might have noticed the Trufflehog's in the middle, a bit bigger in centre. This is to remind me to call out howtorotate.com, which is an open source repository, I guess, and website. It has a wealth of information on how to respond when you do have a key leak. So it's got information for heaps of different platforms on how to actually rotate your API keys and your secrets. So yeah, I recommend checking that out. Cool. So why LeakTK? Why do we want to share it? So we were looking at what we'd built, our patterns, our rules, and yeah, we just wanted to share it, and we wanted to do it the best way we knew how, and that was to open source it. We wanted it to be free, to be open, and whilst it didn't start in the open, we are progressively opening up projects. We aren't selling a product, we're just sharing our implementation, and we are committed to all new work being started in the open. We also wanted a community focus, not to create our own bubble, but to work with upstream projects and integrate them into what we needed. We've done this with GitLeaks and Nats and a few other libraries. Through this work, we've actually built quite a few relationships with other people that are creating scanning tools and other people that work at big scanning vendors and in GitHub scanning team. We've also wanted collaboration and contributions. There's a number of non-Red Hatters that are already involved, especially in the creation and testing of rules. But yeah, we love contributions from everyone, even if it's just talking about what your challenges are or what you're doing in the area. And finally, we wanted to provide a set of tools that make it easier for organisations to start building a scanning system in a way that suits them without a big price tag. But scanning for secrets, it's not enough. We're focused on the detection and the mitigation, but we need to look at what we're doing and what companies are doing and why this isn't enough. So finding leaked secrets and dealing with them, it's important, don't get me wrong, but it's reactive. We'll never be able to catch them all. Some of the things that you need to look at as well are reviewing the way you do credential management, pushing towards secret management platforms, even with developer systems. Keeping this central and using lookups helps to keep secrets out of environment files, source code, project files, all these areas where they end up leaking into other places. It also provides better access logs, so you know who and how your credentials are being accessed. Where possible, it's really good to move towards short-lived credentials over longer-lived static keys. Things like AWS Security Token Service and are good with this. It helps because it really limits the exposure of credentials as they're expiring quickly. But you also need to make sure you're setting the right scope on your credentials and your secrets. But even with this, we still see attacks happening, like GitHub actions. You've got the tokens that are created just for the point of the GitHub action, and you're still seeing them getting leaked occasionally and misused. We need to make sure we keep watching, that we have good detailed logs, we're looking for anomalies, all the normal sort of... and we need to change our organisational practices and keep creating a culture that's aware of this as a risk and is actively seeking to avoid them. Providing them with guidance to securely configure all the different platforms, including their systems and the way that they work. It really does take a layered approach and a lot of diligence. What can the industry do better as a whole? Leaks are always going to happen. We've talked about the ways that we can find them and what we can do to minimise the likelihood of them being leaked. However, we need to look at the way the industry can do better at it as well. The organisations and platforms that are providing these secrets and the standards that define them. These are some ideas that have been thrown around, ideas that could make dealing with leaked secrets, particularly those provided from platforms, easier. Some of them are already implemented by some companies, but it would be good to make them more ubiquitous. Firstly, let's make keys easier to identify. Some places do that, adding a prefix or a postfix, publish good information about the format so that detections can be written more easily, standardise the type of, the way and the type of embedded data that's contained in those secrets, and also including a checksum for quickly validating the key format. Providing a way to quickly quarantine or disable a key using the key. An API where it can quarantine itself unless someone opts out of it at the time of creation. GitHub's had this for personal access tokens since April, and it's fantastic. Provide concise documentation about the creation and revocation of secrets, particularly really simple and clear instructions on revoking secrets. Think, the howtorotate.com. Provide secure defaults and really warn users when they're creating a key with significant power. Sometimes you need that key with significant power, but really enforce the shorter lifespans on these as well. Don't allow the keys to your castle to last for days, weeks, years. Make key rotation easier, and doing their own scanning as well, and providing a way and documentation on how they respond to these sorts of incidents as well. This isn't just a user's problem. Leak secrets are costing companies money. If a platform experiences a large number of leaks, like users leaking their keys, people don't just look at them and go, oh yeah, the users are making mistakes. They don't look too fondly on the company, and you don't want to be in the news as that company whose keys have been leaked, even if it's not your problem. It's not fair, right? But the organisations didn't leak the keys, but there are things that they could be doing better. An organisation that really helps their customer protect themselves is also securing that relationship. When we were thinking about what the industry could do better, we realised we needed to create a group across the industry, and this is where the secrets handling scheme comes in. At First 2025, one of my colleagues was there, and he presented a similar sort of presentation, and that's where the idea for this was born, so not that long ago. It's not a First-based SIG, it's just that it was created while he was there. We already have members across different organisations, including vendors and platforms and other open source scanning projects. And the mission's pretty simple. To enable open source and vendor tools to move beyond basic scanning to solve novel problems in secret leak detection, remediation, and prevention. We see the SIG as an ecosystem of tools and services built around open collaboration that proactively protects data, freeing individuals and organisations to innovate. We're here to improve the status quo, working with organisations. We don't want to cut off those who create and sell great tools. The work of the SIG should improve their products as well as those of the community. And the SIG principles really help us guide us to that end. So you've got collaboration, where we prioritise working together to solve common problems. We aim to integrate with and enhance existing tools and services, not to replace them. Do no harm. We operate with respect and empathy. The goal is to partner with organisations to solve problems, not assign blame, publicly shame them for leaks. All activities should be conducted with the aim of protecting the organisations and their users, and action-orientated. We focus on producing practical, actionable outcomes, whether that's code, documentation, or standards. The group's not about product endorsements, it's not about creating a commercial offering, and it's not actively scanning at large scale or reporting leaks. We're looking at ways we can improve detections, share knowledge, and make secret detection more accessible for everyone. And here are some of the current research projects that they're working on. They've already got a tool-agnostic rule set, so it's a generic format that they've come up with, which is then converted into the rule format required by GitLeaks, Kingfisher, Nosy Parker, Trufflehog, GitHub. There's work happening on detection benchmarking, and it's really to standardise the benchmarking to help identify the fastest, most accurate tooling. But this is for the purpose of improving tooling and detections across the board, and best practices and documentation. So this is aimed at multiple levels, providers, developers, CI/CD, all these different stages where the secrets get leaked. So what is your organisation doing? I don't know what your organisation is doing, and maybe you don't either. Here are some questions that maybe you can think about. Do you know where your employees are sharing secrets? Do you know what accounts employees are using, or how they're storing their secrets locally? Do you scan for secrets in Git repos, ticketing systems, containers? If you're a platform, are you providing easily recognisable secrets? Are you providing a quick way to quarantine secrets? Are you providing excellent documentation? Hopefully, as you go away today, you will consider where your organisation is and where there might be room for improvements. Maybe this is all new, or maybe you have mature systems in place. Either way, what more could you be doing? I know at Red Hat we still have a way to go. We need better training, better documentation, and more coverage across our internal systems. As well as that, as a provider of API keys, we really do need to be better and provide the quick quarantining. We don't do that ourselves. So, yeah. My slides got mixed. So hopefully throughout the presentation I've shown that this is not an issue that just affects a few companies or just affects a few users. You or someone you care about will likely one day leak a secret. And we need to work together, individuals, corporations, vendors, providers, communities, to build tooling, standards and awareness. And without a collaborative effort, leaks will continue to plague our industry. If you have a further interest in what I've chatted about today, about Leak2K, the secret scanning SIG, or just wanted to share what you're doing, I'd love if you come up and have a chat. Thank you.
Great talk. Do we have questions here? Up the front, up here. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned providing secret management platforms and tooling. Can you suggest any good secret management platforms and tooling specifically?
HashiCorp Vault is what we use, yeah.
Reckon that's the go?
That's outside my domain, but that's what we use, and I've found that to be pretty useful, pretty good.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Josh? Back here, Roo.
Hi, you mentioned that you're scanning like hundreds of thousands of repositories, and so those are huge numbers. I was wondering if you have any advice on how to track the resolution of those secrets, or maybe you could share what you use for that.
All right. So with our system, we have a separate system that tracks the resolution of it, where we have, like say for GitHub or Jira, we have that link, and based on the system, it will actually go back and check whether it's still there, and it'll keep pestering whoever's responsible or escalate it to a manager or to the information security team. As far as tracking those, within Pwned Alert itself, it only ever sends out one alert for one leaked secret, and then the rest of it is managed over there. But we just hash a bunch of the different bits of information about it, like its URL, where it is in the file, all of that sort of stuff, so that the system knows whether it's seen it before.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay, another big round of applause for Josh.